Intertwined. Mortimer and I stood on the sandy bank of the lake. His effulgence kept us safe from any unwanted digs, scrapes, and cuts that could come our way from the forest behind us. Forest dwellers hissed, screeched, and bobbed. Yellow eyes blinked in and out of existence around us from different locations. I turned to the lake. To my left, tall trees marked the edge of the lake. It stretched for miles to the foot of the distant peak, then ran back to where I stood. Small waves rolled onto the beach for a few seconds, then retreated. Above, the huge crescent moon lit the glassy surface of the water. Mortimer watched the lake. It was freezing over. Ice formed, making the lake appear like an ice skating ring. A brimming sounded. I kept watching. Two huge lamps lit beneath the surface. A crack, followed by several cracks, cut through the ice like branches of a tree spreading out. A roar sounded, sending the forest inhabitants wild. Smash! A huge Arctic vehicle burst through the ice. Rolling onto the beach, its front end stopped as its tires crushed the sand beneath it. The driver's door opened. A tall man clad in denim got out. Closing the truck door, he came over to me, but he stopped just shy of Mortimer's effulgence. "Bonjour, I'm Simon," he said. I touched my heart and gave him a gentle bow. "My companion will permit you to enter his sphere. Remain within it until we reach my home." Simon looked at the rustling of bushes behind me. A tree swung its claw, slicing the air. Several yellow eyes blinked into existence, watching us. He entered Mortimer's sphere. Stood looking at the forest ahead, his eyes blazed bright red, pupils expanding, covering his entire eyes. We walked deeper into the forest. Simon struggled, gritting his teeth. He clenched his fist every few seconds, as if fighting something inside him, keeping it locked away. Mortimer's effulgence dispersed as we reached the porch of Halfway House 17. He climbed the steps and entered, veering left into the lounge. I turned to Simon. "Please, after you. The lounge is to the left." Simon gingerly placed his left foot on the first step. He changed instantly. Long brown hair burst out all over him. His face morphed into a muzzle with sharp teeth protruding from his mouth. His frame elongated. Hands and feet became paws with extended claws. His eyes, red, as they were before. Simon was a Rougarou. "You see me fully now, gatekeeper. I am Collins." Simon is now inside, locked away, as he kept me. I gestured to the entrance. He entered, walking upright, claws scraping my wooden floor. I followed as Collins veered into the lounge and sat down. Mortimer was in his usual spot, on his rug next to the fireplace, head on paws. His eyes watched the Rougarou. I sat down, throwing my right leg over my left. "You want to hear how I got twined with Simon? It wasn't by choice, let me tell you that. He is filthy. Vile thoughts run in his mind as he drives his truck. He keeps a machete strapped to his door with the hilt sticking out so he can grab it quickly. All I can do is watch." Collins tapped his paw on the wooden floor as he watched the flames dance in the fireplace. I met Simon over the ice lake in his truck. Winter means food is scarce for my kind, so we got to take extra risk. The Great Lakes ice over. Truckers use them to haul cargo as it makes their trips much shorter. I heard him coming. I waited at the tree line. It was snowing hard, the biting wind. Simon talked on the radio, asking if there were black spots between him and the lake. Collins looked at me. I answered, telling him there were none. "You see, gatekeeper, my kind have an acute hearing, but with that comes another acute sense that allows us to send signals to each other. Telepathy," I said. Collins nodded. "Of a sort. We can only communicate with our own kind. With humans it is rare, but it happens sometimes. I sensed Simon could hear me, so I spoke to him. Collins looked at the fireplace again. It is a connection with preternatural beings and humans who have crossed the line to the shade, I said. Collins nodded. I waited. The wind blew savagely, spraying snow. I was starving, not eaten in 3 weeks, when I saw Simon's Arctic truck finally approach. With a sprint and a huge leap, I landed on his truck as it passed. Creeping to the top of the cab, I ripped the radio antenna out and tossed it. I sat and listened. Simon talked on the CB for a while. Getting no joy, he switched it to his MERS radio. After a few switches, he found a disused channel. That's when I answered. Buddy, I'm glad you're there. It's more private, if you know what I ask. Simon said. I always use this radio, not really wanting to bother the public, I said. Agreed, we are on the same page as they say, Simon said. You have a truck, or you hunting? Simon said. I have my own cab, but hunting. Oh, hunting is beautiful. I like to get close with a machete. It is what man was meant to do, Simon said. I could sense his vile thoughts. He was not interested in hunting for food, as I do. But before I could ask him, he asked me, What is your preference? Simon continued. Moose, caribou, deer. How boring. Maybe a black bear. Or something more, perhaps. I could sense his thirst for digging a body. He would hack a face clean off. He was smiling as he drove. I sniffed the air. There was a poor soul attached to a chain in the trailer. He had wet himself. His face was blooded and he was barefoot. 18, I think. A streetwalker who approached Simon at a truck stop. Simon was thinking about how he was going to carve him up with a machete. 2 meals for me then, I thought. The boy's scent ignited my hunger. Collins grinned. His teeth sprang out an inch beyond his lips. Claws dug straight through the armrest, exposing the inside sponge. Mortimer watched Collins, but remained unperturbed. Collins continued. I leapt up and straight through the driver window. Simone yanked the steering wheel. He slammed the brakes. The truck slid. The cab turned against the trailer. Simone looked mortified, but he gritted his teeth. He stuck his machete into my torso. I ripped his neck open. His arm fell limp. The machete fell. I reached over for a bite. Tilt. The truck rolled, cracking the ice beneath it. Plunge. We fell through. I did not even get a bite. We sunk rapidly. Ice water crashed in around us. A million sharp knives pierced me all over as I fell. My eyes on Simone, his eyes on me. We watched each other. Simone gritted teeth, uttered something in his mind. I have never heard that language before. My eyes closed, but Simone grabbed my neck. He dragged his right eye to mine. His uttering became a scream in my brain. Collins shook his head. I came to on the ice. I had the machete in my claw. I got up. Did not feel hungry anymore. My claws were blood-stained. You like to kill, you beast, Simone said. I looked around, but I could not see Simone anywhere. I am inside you, idiot, Simone said. He laughed. My claws retracted. Fur gone. Within seconds, I was Simone holding a machete. He knew I was a Rougarou all along. He was descended from a line of witches, so he cast a spell intertwining both of us so that he could survive. The cost to him? I survived too. A tear leaked from Collins' eye. I didn't give up so easily, Gatekeeper. He had to fight to keep me from turning back. I would come out at night as he slept, hiding his beloved machete, running rapidly through the woods so he'd be miles away from his cab when he awakened. I killed to feed, and I left the bodies near me, so when he awakened, he would be convicted. Tell me something, Gatekeeper. Have you ever smelt a carcass shoved deep in your cab that has rotten in heat for 10 hours? The smell is foul. I don't mind it so much, but humans? Well, they have a weak stomach. Simon was no different. I laughed as he threw up. Collins looked at me. I made life so terrible for him that he looked to separate us again, but he couldn't because we would both die. That's when he cast a spell to bring us here. What makes you think I can help you? I looked at Collins. You are the guardian of this house, the gateway between realms. You decide who goes where. I decide after the souls have left that realm. I can show you a door that will separate the two of you. Where it leads after that is weighed up by both your actions. Are you willing? I said. Anything would be better than being stuck with him any longer. I need to hear from both of you. Collins nodded. Simone, enter my home. Collins morphed into the denim-clad Simone once more. Gatekeeper, it is unfair to leave me out till now. My home, my rules. As I suggested to Collins, I can show you a door which can untwine you both. Where it leads after that is on you. Are you willing? Simone looked at the fireplace. He uttered something to himself. He waited. I kept my eyes on him. Mortimer watched him. He was trying to cast a spell. You have already disrupted the natural flow of things by coming here. Do not insult me anymore, I said. Mortimer growled. Hamish, a ginger cat, leapt up on the armrest of my chair. Turning, he faced Simone and sat down. The whole house is aware of your presence here, Simone. I watched him. You can always be escorted back to your truck. I agree. I give you my permission, custodian of this house. Simone grinned. Follow me, I said, standing. Simone stood up and fell in behind me. Mortimer and Hamish followed. We descended a set of stairs to the basement where I turned right. This is a very interesting place, gatekeeper, Simone said. He looked behind me at a long corridor filled with oak doors on both sides. It appeared endless. I waited at the second door on the right, just before another corridor. It appears as I choose it to. I opened the door to reveal a grey dirt road that forked into two dirt roads 50 feet from the door. The land was arid and looked like somewhere in Utah. It was a hot day. You enter. When you reach the fork, you will split into two. Each of you then can walk your separate path. Simone nodded. He entered, walking towards the fork. Mortimer, Hamish, and I watched as he strode on. Just as he reached the fork, he split. Collins, the Rougarou, veered left. Simone walked right. He turned and smiled at Collins. Told you this would work. Collins nodded. The temperature changed in an instant. Eyes formed around them, trapping them. What is this, gatekeeper? Collins growled. He tricked us, Simone shouted. A blizzard blew, lashing snow against them. I strode to them. You cast a spell to get here. You do not belong here, for you did not die in the other realm. You must go back. Be grateful I separated the pair of you. I looked at Simone. I choose how this place appears. Remember that next time you are here. I did nothing wrong, Collins said. I stepped closer to him. You did not die either. He bound you to him before you could. You must die, then make your own way here. I will be waiting when you do. For now, you must go back. Crack, the ice broke. Both Collins and Simone fell into the deep icy water. I watched them as they plummeted. Simone glared. Collins closed his eyes. Ice formed above, sealing them below. I turned and returned to the door where Mortimer waited for me to cross the threshold. Entering my corridor, I closed the door and returned to the lounge, followed by Mortimer. A single malt whiskey waited for me on the table next to my armchair. Hamish sat on the curtain rail, his eyes slits. Thank you, old friend, I said. he purred. Mortimer circled his rug once more and then sat down. Head on paws, he closed his eyes. I felt sorry for Collins, but like all others who arrive here, he must find his own way. He cannot be assisted by a spell. I will not allow it. Now Simon knows that too. He learned the hard way, so he will not be so quick to cast a spell in my abode again. I am slighted by that, and I will demand recompense. He will pay when he arrives here after he dies. Witchcraft is always tricky, particularly when you use it for your own needs. Nature equals balance. Tipping the balance for another is a balance in itself, for you work on behalf of one that needs assistance. Your effort on one scale, and the benefit to the other on the opposite scale. Balance. Manipulating energy to feed yourself, that's just greed, thus throwing balance out of the window. I would not dabble in it, for it never ends well. A word of caution. When you enter another's home as a guest, be polite and courteous. Do not offend your host, or you might be dealing with a wrathful deity. Until next time, see you next Sunday at 11. Stay safe. Don't die in your sleep. Godspeed.